Chapter 29-31. It was now June 3020, and a sensational thing happened in the gaming world this month. A certain gaming company released a large-scale cultivation game, and it attracted a lot of people when the game was in closed beta. Now that it was released, the servers almost burst on the day itself. On the second day of the game's release, they were forced to release a new server that was prepared later to satisfy the needs of the majority of players. This cultivation game not only allowed Tangua to raise her husband, but she could also raise her wife, son, father, and mother. In short, anything that you wanted to cultivate could be found in this large-scale cultivation game, and it could definitely satisfy anyone's needs. Tangua's current identity was the only daughter of the richest man in the city. During the game's closed beta, she had already started to cultivate her account. The attraction of this game was that it could satisfy the rich to spend money to cultivate what they wanted to cultivate, and it could also satisfy some ordinary players to cultivate their game characters from ordinary to the most perfect state in their hearts. However, one of the most attractive aspects of the game was that if they played this game with a gaming pod, they could immerse their mental energy into it and talk to their cultivated characters, communicate, play together, and even have a relationship in the virtual world that they needed. It was as if it was a real world. However, the disadvantage was that the game characters were more silly in the early stages, just like machines, and were not as intelligent as real people. However, the gaming company revealed that the game would definitely surprise the majority of players in the later stages. By then, in the virtual spiritual world, it might be difficult to distinguish the characters that they cultivated from the real ones. Tangua saw all of this on the gaming forum. The basic attributes of the game character that appeared on the interface earlier had already been confirmed. Name, Su Gu. Age, 18. Identity, Tianxing Sex Young Sect Master, Tianxing Continent's Number 1 Cultivation Genius Spiritual Root, Supreme Grade Golden Spiritual Root Cultivation, Golden Core Peak Mount, White Dragon Appearance, Level 10, Max Level 10, Luck, Level 10, Max Level 10. There were more items in the item column. After all, the original owner had participated in the closed beta, and her family was not short of money, so she did not lack any magic treasures at all. The appearance and luck on the screen could be bought with money. Before looking at the memories, she really did not know why she appeared in this world. Therefore, she first checked if there was anyone at home, then lay back and began to receive the memories. The name of this game was very simple. It was called a cultivation game, and you could add any cultivation plan. Not only could you cultivate one, but also others. In short, you could find whatever you wanted to cultivate inside. Currently, the original owner did not only raise Su Gu, but a total of 10. One of them was a husband plan, 3 were pets, and 2 were daughters. What surprised Tangua was that she had 2 cultivation friends plans. Finally, there was a mother and brother. That's right, she raised her parents. Therefore, she raised a mother, a brother, a husband, 3 pets, 2 daughters, and 2 friends. System, rich. Basically, every day, she would take the time to upgrade these characters' abilities, attributes, and treasures. From this, it could be seen that the original owner was playing a game. However, her intuition told her that things weren't that simple. Chapter 29-32. Sure enough, as she continued reading, she understood why things weren't as simple as they seemed. The host was the only daughter of the richest man in the city. Her mother had died in childbirth, so her body had always been very weak. Even though she had been raised well, her foundation was poor. Even now, when she was 15 years old, she still couldn't do any strenuous exercise. Since she was young, she had always envied healthy people. She had also looked forward to playing with them. But after trying a few times, it ended in failure. Because every time she played a game that was a little too exciting, she might pass out. Every time her father hurried over, her classmates would be frightened by his ostentatious appearance. Although her father didn't say anything to the school teachers, he said that the host was just playful and didn't blame them. But after those classmates' families found out about this, they fiercely warned them not to play with the host in the future. If they really brought the daughter of the richest man to play and something happened, would they be able to afford the compensation? This was the reason why the host had two friend characters. She realized that no one wanted to play with her and they were very careful when they spoke to her. The sensitive host understood their concerns, so she didn't force them. She was too lonely, so she eventually fell in love with games. She had also played all sorts of other nurturing games and competitive games before this successful nurturing game had appeared. So, games were really a way for her to relieve her loneliness. Even if it was just a game, she only treated it as a game. But she treated it very seriously. She kept those two friends as if she really treated them as friends. Because of her health, and because of the time when her pet cat at home made her fall into a coma and be hospitalized, although her father didn't do anything to the cat and just gave it to someone else to raise, the family was still not allowed to keep small pets. So, this was the reason why she kept 3 pets. These 3 pets were a cat, a dog, and a tortoise. Of course, she kept a mother because the day she was born was the day her mother died. In fact, she was sadder than anyone else. In fact, among these characters, the mother she kept had the best equipment and the highest cultivation. Of course, the things she kept were also the best. Speaking of which, among all the characters she kept, Soo-Ji-Ee's husband was one of the worst. She didn't spend much money and it was just a side character. Raising a younger brother was because her health was not good. If she had a younger brother, he could help her father deal with a lot of things when he grew up. Although her father would remove all the dangers around her and make her very lonely, she didn't blame him at all. Because her father only hoped that she could live well and live on with her mother. Therefore, she had to live well. As for raising 2 daughters, just like Soo-Ji-Ee's character, it was all incidental. However, it was still more meaningful than Soo-Ji-Ee's role. The 2 daughters she raised valued their bodies and stamina the most. It could be said that these 2 female characters were the most powerful. In the Tianxing continent, it would not be an exaggeration to say that the 2 of them could lift a mountain. She raised Su-Gu because she already had a father, a mother, a younger brother, a daughter, and a pet friend. She definitely needed a husband. Therefore, Soo-Ji-Ee's treatment was really the worst. Chapter 2933. If it wasn't to match the identities of the other characters, she didn't want to spend time on Su-Gu at all. Originally, it was just a game to accompany the original owner, but it was quietly changing. The people of this world probably didn't expect that one day, their entire world would be assimilated by this successful game. The entire world was assimilated into the Tianxing continent. For normal people, this was an opportunity, but also the end of the world. It was originally a game, but now it really became a game that played the entire world. When the world was assimilated by the game, the people who benefited the most were the people who played the game. As long as they seriously played the game and treated the characters they raised. Then when the world was assimilated by the game, these characters would treat them as the most important people and would wholeheartedly protect them to survive in this assimilated world. According to the original owner's crazy spending in the early stages, these 10 characters would definitely protect her in the future. But things weren't like that. The original owner was just a female supporting character who died before the world was assimilated into the game world. At this point, it was time to talk about the female lead of this world. The other party was also a player of this game, but she was just a normal student and didn't have the energy to raise 10 characters at once like the original owner. The other party only raised 1. The game's plan was to randomly assign a character that you needed in the Tianxing continent. The female lead's name was Su Wei, an ordinary high school student. She was really ordinary. Her family background was ordinary, her looks were ordinary, and her grades were ordinary. She was the kind that couldn't be found at a glance in a crowd. When she accidentally came into contact with this game, she excitedly registered. She felt that boys nowadays were all superficial. The ones she liked wouldn't like her. The ones who liked her were basically all repulsive. It was these repulsive people who probably wanted someone prettier in their hearts. When this game came out, it could be said that it satisfied many people's fantasies. She didn't even think about it and decided to raise a Prince Charming in her heart. Naturally, the character she raised would be the future male lead, the male lead who would protect her in the assimilated world and live peacefully. No matter what happened, the male lead who would always protect her carefully behind him. Actually, at this point, there wasn't anything special about the male and female lead. She raised the male lead, so it was normal for the male lead to protect her in the future. However, things weren't that simple. The character that the system assigned to Su Wei was originally a poor little mountain village. She was ostracized everywhere she went. What was even more frightening was that she was crippled and beaten up by the children in the village. The only thing special about the male lead, Nangong Jin, was his red hair. In the background of the story, it was because of his red hair that everyone in the village thought he was a monster. Not only did they cripple him, but they also drove him to live in a small thatched hut. Summer was still fine, but when winter came, every day was unbearable. Originally, Su Wei was complaining about why the system assigned her such a role. After she asked the question, she was even despised by the system. The answer the service system gave her was, "You're so poor, you can't afford to raise someone with a good background. He's just a poor boy, you just need to feed him." Could it be that you think you can still raise the #1 cultivation genius of the Tianxing continent? Do you know what she eats for every meal? Chapter 2934. That was because the game required an ID number, fingerprints, and eye mask to be registered. With the development of the game industry, everything related to the internet had long been registered with real names. If the ID number, fingerprints, and eye mask did not match, it would not be registered. Therefore, it was not possible to register a second account. Su Wei was a little reluctant to give up on the game. Therefore, she gritted her teeth and played for a while. If it was not fun, she would stop playing. She did not expect to be addicted to it. Especially when she saw the poor little boy who was bullied by the villagers and could only live in a shabby straw hut. He did not even have shoes, let alone food. Fortunately, the boy was tough. He ate some wild grass and fruits, and occasionally hunted a wild rabbit and barely survived. Seeing the poor boy, Su Wei sympathized. Her mind was full of thoughts. This character was her future husband, and he was so pitiful that he did not even have shoes to wear. Therefore, she stopped eating snacks and used her pocket money to buy shoes and clothes for the boy. In fact, Su Wei really wanted to have a game capsule. That way, she could directly use her mental strength to meet the boy in the game world. But she did not have money. But in order to support her future husband, she planned to work part-time on the weekends and try to buy a game capsule as soon as possible. Now that game capsules were common, it would not be too expensive to buy a cheaper one. Things took a turn for the better when Su Wei went home from her part-time job on the weekend. On the way home, she picked up a very beautiful USB flash drive. Yes, it was a USB flash drive. At that time, the sky was almost dark. Even though there were street lights on both sides, most people would be in a hurry home and would not notice anything on the ground. But she noticed it because she saw that the USB flash drive was glowing. She walked closer and picked it up. It was a very ordinary USB flash drive on the market. There was no light at all when she held it in her hand. But because it looked new, she took it home. When she went back, she turned on the computer and let her future husband out to gain experience. She also connected the USB flash drive to the computer. At that moment, a miracle happened. The first thing that appeared was a manual for the artifact. Yes, the contents of this small USB flash drive called itself an artifact. With doubts in her heart, Su Wei finished reading the explanation. She did not believe the contents of the explanation. This was because the instruction manual stated that as long as she connected the USB to the computer and opened her character, she would be able to see all the characters in Tianxing continent. Not only that, she could also take the other party's items and give them to her character to use. As long as she had enough proficiency, this item would completely belong to her character, and it would even upgrade the artifact. To a certain extent, the divine artifact could also help her steal other characters' talents, skills, luck, and so on. As long as she could steal it, she would be able to use it on this character that she had cultivated. Su Wei's reaction at that time was that it was impossible. Even the top hackers in the world could not do this. After all, the company that released this game was a top gaming company. The top computer scientists in their company were definitely very good. Even if there were some loopholes, it was impossible to cause such a big accident. Furthermore, Su Wei had another concern. If she was caught doing such a thing, the game company would freeze her account. Chapter 2935. Not only that, but if the amount involved was large enough, the other party could even sue her. Since the gaming industry had developed to this point, there were already laws regarding illegal activities in virtual games. It wasn't that she didn't want to, but she didn't dare to. But at this moment, another sentence appeared on the interface. The gaming company wouldn't be able to track her down if she used the artifact to steal items, so she could use it without worry. Humans were curious. Even if they thought it was impossible, they still wanted to give it a try. After struggling for a while, Su Wei decided to try and see if this artifact that looked like a USB stick was really that powerful. Initially, she found a person in the youth's village and planned to steal his items, but she didn't succeed. She found out why in the artifact's manual. It turned out that the villager's items couldn't be stolen. What she needed to steal were the items in the player's hands. As long as it was something that passed through the player's hands, she could steal it. Su Wei changed her target again, and this time, she succeeded. She stole a pair of shoes and a set of clothes and gave them to her husband, Nangong Jin. She also observed the other party and the gaming company's movements. There didn't seem to be any movements. Later, she became bolder and planned to get more items for Nangong Jin. After all, she really couldn't afford them. She was still a student. Even if she worked part-time, it would take a long time for her to buy a nourishment pod. Her plan was to steal the items that the players kept in their backpacks and didn't let their characters use them. Stealing a few items shouldn't have much of an impact. Later, some players on the forum said that the items in their backpacks would mysteriously disappear. Although they weren't important, many people guessed that those items had a time limit. The gaming company also found it strange. Some items in the game did have a time limit. But if the players bought them themselves, they wouldn't expire. But they couldn't tell the truth. They didn't know what was going on. On one hand, she thought of a way to deal with the players. On the other hand, she was looking for her younger brother. Su Wei realized that the gaming company really couldn't track her. After all, many items in the shop were the same. Nangong Jin wouldn't be noticed if he used them. Just like that, she leveled up with Nangong Jin. She stole more and more things, but because she only had one character, Nangong Jin, she didn't steal much, so it wasn't a big problem. In the end, there weren't many things that could catch Su Wei's attention, and the players at the bottom didn't have much to say. The gaming company couldn't find the loophole, but there was nothing they could do. After all, they still had to earn money. This game had attracted many tycoons to play. They still had to find loopholes, but more importantly, they had to earn money. Su Wei continued to steal, and the characters she stole later were all rich players. A rich player wouldn't just raise one character, so they wouldn't even know that something had been stolen. In the end, she stole it from the original owner. Through the artifact, she discovered that the original owner had raised 10 characters. All of them had top-grade equipment and their stats were all maxed out. She was speechless. The host was a tycoon. She even secretly stole things for Nangong Jin. The host found out about this and asked the game company what was going on. The other party said that they could compensate her, but she didn't want to accept it. They wanted a clear confirmation. Because she had raised these characters with all her heart, every item, except for Su Ji's, was carefully selected. Especially the character for her mother. The top-grade ice staff she had prepared for her mother was gone, and so was the top-grade feather dress. Actually, the ice staff and feather dress were stolen by Su Wei. She already had the gaming cabin and could use her mental strength to enter the game. When she met Nangong Jean, she naturally had to make an outfit for herself. Even though she didn't have any special attributes. Many of the original owner's things were missing, which made her very angry. After arguing with the game company, she fell down the stairs in a fit of anger and died. After the original owner died, all the items used to raise her characters were stolen by Su Wei. Su Wei found that the original owner's account hadn't been logged in, so she became even bolder when stealing. She thought that the tycoon didn't want to play anymore. When the entire world was assimilated into the game world, the skills, attributes, and items of the original owner's characters were mostly stolen. His noble identity and powerful cultivation had all sorts of problems. In the end, they all died. Chapter 2936. Because Su Wei used the so-called divine artifact to steal the talent, luck, attributes, and top-notch equipment of the original owner of the body, not long after the game world assimilated with the real world, they were all killed one by one. As for the male lead, Nangong Jean, who was raised by Su Wei, because he obtained the top-grade equipment, talent, stats, and luck, he protected Su Wei in the assimilated world and lived a smooth life. Su Wei, who had the divine weapon, was still able to use it after the assimilation of the world. Because of Su Wei's success, the divine weapon was upgraded. After the assimilation of the game world, the divine weapon could still steal other people's things. After the item was taken back, it would become normal looking. Although the people in the outside world knew that their items were mysteriously disappearing, they didn't know that their talent and luck were also disappearing. Later on, when their cultivation stopped, they thought that they had reached a bottleneck. After reading the memories, Tang Guo opened her eyes and returned to the computer. She checked the 10 raised characters in the house and began to level them up according to the original owner's actions. Great host, this world will be assimilated soon. Now that you've read the memories, do you have any plans? Also, Su Wei should be about to pick up the divine weapon. I don't think that divine weapon is anything good. Tang Guo continued to farm experience and said, help me contact the 3 unrivaled and tell them about this divine weapon. Let's see if this divine artifact is a product made by the other party. Actually, after reading the story, she had a preliminary understanding of the use of this divine weapon. It was very similar to the so-called lucky stone. If one were to carefully distinguish between the two, they would find that they were both different approaches that led to the same result. Also, in a certain world, there was a person who took over a human's body and did bad things to her. These 3 should be from the same side because they did things in the same way. Great host, I've already sent the mail to the 3 ones. I don't know when he will reply. The system couldn't reply at any time. For example, when traveling through time, there was no way to check the mail and reply. After all, in the space-time tunnel, the signal was especially unstable. Under normal circumstances, there would not be any unnecessary activities. In the distant dimensions, Tang Kuei had easily completed the mission of the world's client. He put away the blade that was still dripping with blood and looked back at the dark sky. He took out a handkerchief and wiped his palms. The boot-licking voice of 111 rang in his ears. He chuckled softly. Dear host, do you want to stay here for a vacation, or do you want to leave this world immediately? Tang Kuei's tone was flat. Is there anything in this world that I'm reluctant to part with? Nothing interesting. Let's leave this world. It had been a long time since he had encountered an interesting world. In these small worlds, there were actually some disgusting things. Therefore, every time he completed a mission, he would leave immediately after completing it. After all, the client only asked him to help complete these tasks, and the client was very satisfied with the result. Everyone was happy. It was better to return to the spacetime department than to take a vacation in a small world. At least the spacetime department was quieter. 111 then, does the host want to choose the next mission to leave this world and go directly to the next world? Chapter 2937. Or return to the transit station to rest for a few days? Ever since he had hugged this golden thigh, his performance had been increasing steadily. Every year, he would be the leader of the mission system. Basically, no mission taker could compare to his great host. After his and his great host's tireless efforts, his level was also increasing steadily. 111 thought of the wild system that had no serial number but was so awesome that it almost broke him. If they met next time, it was not certain who would win. Let's go back and have a cup of tea before moving on to the next mission. The girl said that no matter what we do, we have to strike a balance between work and rest. Don't damage our bodies. Tang Kuei seemed to have recalled something. His originally somewhat cold eyes had a hint of warmth and a smile. Seeing this, 111 wasn't sure if he would be able to defeat that wild system the next time he encountered it. Even if he could beat it, his great host might ask him to go easy on it and let it win, right? Great host, get ready. Begin the teleportation. Beep. 111 system, you have a new mail. After hearing the mail notification, 111 and Tang Kuei were already in the space-time tunnel and could not check the mail at the moment. When they returned to the transit station, Tang Kuei made a cup of tea and sank his consciousness into the interface to choose a mission. When he saw a small world that had assimilated the real world into the game world, he could not help but take a few more glances. Because he had not played in such a world before, he decisively accepted the mission. 111 had just finished reading the mail when he accepted it. Tang Kuei was already browsing the plot. In almost an instant, he finished reading all the plots. Then, he met the client. Are you the client this time? Tang Kuei asked. You are a game character. What mission do you want me to do? I am very curious. The client looked at Tang Kuei and sized him up for a while before saying, although I am just a game character, after the real world and the game world assimilated, the two worlds have learned from each other's strengths and weaknesses. The real world gave the game character intelligence and life, and our game world also brought magic and fantasy to the real world. In fact, you can treat me as a real person. Tang Kuei smiled faintly. Then, what do you want me to do for you? You should know that according to the size of the mission, you will need to pay different amounts of soul energy. I know. I am willing to use all my soul energy to exchange with you. Please help me protect two people. Tang Kuei drank a cup of tea. All your soul energy? You only need to protect two people? Yes, because the other party has a divine artifact and is very powerful. I'm not sure if you can deal with her. So, my biggest hope is that you can help me protect these two people. After the world is assimilated, protect them and prevent them from any danger. Tang Kuei saw the seriousness in the other party's eyes. He finished his tea and stood up. Okay, I'll accept this mission. You're very persistent and your goal is very clear. I like your personality. Even if you're just a game character, I still admire you. Therefore, I've decided to give you a set meal. Destroying the divine artifact that you mentioned is also my goal. The three of you, let's go, it's time for a mission. Hearing Tang Kuei's words, 111 came back to his senses. Chapter 2938. Alright, Madam Host. Oh right, Madam Host, I just received an email from your wild sister's wild system. The system watched as Tangua continued to charge money into the game, farm equipment, and equip her 10 characters with top-notch equipment, skills, and attributes. In just a few days, her experience bar was almost full. Even Su Gu, who had been neglected by the original owner, she had upgraded his equipment. Actually, Su Gu was the #1 cultivation genius in the Tianxing continent, but the people outside did not know that Su Gu was not treated well by the original owner. His level was the lowest, and his strength was also the lowest. He was not even as good as the turtle in the basin. Tangua threw money like crazy. Basically, she spent tens of thousands of gold coins, and then hundreds of thousands of gold coins to farm equipment. Other than raising the 10 main characters, she also raised a bunch of assassins and followers. All of them were high-leveled and were more powerful than the single character raised by some people. In addition, she liked all kinds of strange things, so she kept all of them. Seeing this, the system felt that its madam host was not raising cows this time, but goo worms. The game company saw that Tang Guo was spending money like crazy and seemed to want to raise more things. Because of this, they released a sect master token in 2 days. One sect master token could summon 1,000 disciples. This was not in the plot. Although there were many rich people in the game, there was really no one like Tang Guo who raised a bunch of characters seriously. The game company released the sect master token to satisfy people like Tang Guo who wanted to raise characters on a large scale. There were 2 ways to obtain the sect master token. One was to find treasures, and the other was to buy it with money. The price of one sect master token was 100,000. After Tang Guo saw it, 10 sect master tokens meant that she now had 10,000 disciples. Seeing that Tang Guo was so generous, the game company gave out 1,000,000. The game designer thought to himself, with 10,000 disciples, I'll definitely need resources. I'll have to equip the disciples with mounts, right? Thus, the game company released a mount token. It was still a mount token that could summon 1,000 mounts. Tang Guo didn't think that the game company was trying to cheat her of her money. They were giving her resources. Thus, with a wave of her small hand, she charged 1,000,000 yuan into her game account and bought 10 mount tokens for her disciples to ride on. When the gaming company saw this, they were a little excited. With such a big client, they couldn't just take her money and not give her anything in return, right? Therefore, the game company decided to give this rich player a weapon token. That's right, with a single weapon token, one could obtain 1,000 top-grade weapons. This was a special reward for this tycoon player. Since the tycoon liked it, they would design something for her that she liked. Tang Guo was very happy to receive the gift in return. However, she didn't know that everyone in the gaming channel was speechless when they saw her raising 10,000 disciples by herself. Although they were surprised, they were also very envious. Although the other tycoons also liked to play games, they didn't think it was necessary to spend money like Tang Guo to raise 10,000 disciples. If he had the energy, he might as well raise a few of them to farm for experience and skills, and equip them with equipment. It was much more interesting than this. Chapter 29-39. But they didn't say anything. Everyone had their own hobbies. In short, Tang Guo's account had always been the first in this game. Father Tang knew that Tang Guo had spent millions to raise the game character. After all, the card Tang Guo used was the supplementary card he gave her. Sir, Miss seems to be having a lot of fun. Tang Roni's face was full of smiles. Since the last time she fainted and went home to recuperate, I haven't seen Xiao Guo so happy for a long time. I heard that in the later stages of this game, the game character's performance is similar to that of a real person. With the game cabin, Miss can still play with the game character in it. As long as it's controlled properly, it won't do any harm to Miss's body. That's good. Tang Roni shook his head, a little regretful. Although the world's medical skills are so advanced, there's still no way to improve Xiao Guo's physique. I asked people to keep an eye on her all the time because I'm afraid something will happen to her. Sir, Miss should understand you. Now she doesn't run around everywhere. Speaking of this, Tang Roni felt even more guilty. She's too sensible. That's why I'm more worried. I know Xiao Guo really wants to play with those classmates, but everyone has their concerns. He himself couldn't guarantee that if something happened to his baby daughter when she was playing, he wouldn't blame those people at all. So, their concerns were understandable. Sir, don't worry. Look, isn't Miss spending money happily now? The assistant comforted him. In the later stages of the game, Miss will be able to play with them in the virtual game world. By the way, sir, you can also try this game. Maybe you can play with Miss in the game. Speaking of which, sir and Miss really don't spend enough time together. Tang Roni reflected on himself and nodded. Indeed, I'm not qualified to be a father. If I spend more time with Xiao Guo, she won't be so lonely. Yes, sir, you can also raise a character. When the experience and skill points are full, you can bring it to play with Miss in the virtual world. Miss will be very happy. The assistant's suggestion made Tang Roni very excited. Then what are you waiting for? Hurry up and tell me how to play this game. So, with the help of his assistant, Tang Roni logged into the game and was creating a character. Sir, what kind of character do you want to cultivate? A nanny, a guard, or a knight? Tang Roni thought for a while and said, let's raise a son. I'll raise a brother for Xiaogua. I want to raise a brother who is sensible, obedient, smart and capable, strong and powerful, who loves Xiaogua wholeheartedly. Tang Roni's eyes were full of love as he keyed in his son's name. Give me an hour of game time every day so that I can farm experience. I want to personally train my eldest son so that he can properly protect his little sister in the game world. After saying that, Tang Roni even felt funny. It's the first time I've done such a childish thing in my whole life. It's not childish at all. If Miss knew Sir's intentions, she would definitely be very happy. Sir is very busy. In the future, when this game character is developed, he can replace Sir to accompany Mississippi. Tang Roni thought about it and agreed. Don't tell Xiaogua about this. I want to give her a surprise. Oh right, give me more money. Experience is worth it. If only money could solve this problem. Chapter 2940. Tanghua had no idea that her cheapskate father was also raising a character just so he could play with her. He even raised a perfect brother who spoiled his sister. After resting for a while, she would be able to go back to school. After school, she definitely wouldn't have so much time to earn experience points. She handed this glorious task to the system. After she came, she asked the system to add many layers of defense to her game account. Once Su Wei's artifact appeared, it would be impossible to steal her things successfully. Of course, it would take a while for the other party to steal from her. Before that, Su Wei was stealing from ordinary players. Tanghua checked the entire game mechanism and called the game company. Miss Tang? Tanghua spent a lot of money later. Not only did Tanghua spend a lot of money, the game company also found out that Boss Tang was also spending tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of yuan. Also, Boss Tang seemed to only have one character. So when Tanghua called the company, they were of course treated like VIPs. I wonder if Miss Tang has any suggestions for us since you're calling? Tanghua, it's like this. I've played many modes so far, and I especially want to play the challenge mode. I like the forced challenge mode the most, the kind where you can knock off the opponent's equipment. Do you have such a mode in the future? There are many players now. You can dig for treasures and fight monsters in this game. Why can't you allow players to challenge it? To be honest, Miss Tang, we have prepared such a mode, but we don't plan to upgrade it yet. Can we upgrade it earlier? If this goes on, I feel like there's no way to spend money. The game company staff, okay, we'll prepare it right away. Thank you for your suggestion, Miss Tang. Actually, we're already planning to upgrade this mode. When the time comes, we'll expand the map and build sects, gangs, and so on. Of course, in the future, we'll also occupy territory. So, this challenge mode is available. Please look forward to it. Tanghua hung up the phone with satisfaction and added another 500,000 yuan to her account. She had no choice. Her father was rich and told her to spend as much as she wanted, as long as she was happy. The system asked weakly, "Dear host, I feel that you must have some ulterior motive for suggesting this to the game company." I don't have any ulterior motives. I just want to release that mode as soon as possible. It's best if there's a forced challenge mode. At that time, I'll be able to challenge Su Wei and take all her equipment. If she dares to steal anything, I'll beat her back to her original form. Speaking of which, Tanghua called the game company again. Miss Tang, is there anything else you need? I have an idea. When you challenge someone, if you can drop levels and continuously challenge them, you can beat them back to their original state. Wouldn't that be more challenging? System, this woman is too evil. Tang Guo was already in school. Her experience points were all earned with the help of the system. She only needed to charge money and equip her character. As for Su Wei, just like in the storyline, she picked up the USB that claimed to be a divine artifact. One day, Su Wei came back from her part-time job and picked up the USB drive. When he turned on the computer to play games, he suddenly remembered the existence of the USB flash drive and wanted to see what was inside. Chapter 2941. If there was anything important, she could find a way to return it to the other party. If there was nothing important, no one would care about such an ordinary USB drive. She could just leave it at home. She plugged the USB drive into the computer and read the instructions. Just like in the plot, she could not believe that there was such a thing. This was something that even the best hackers could not do. After all, this game was really made by a big company. If there was such a flaw, it would be fixed immediately. Moreover, she did not think that a company like this would make such a terrible mistake. However, the existence of the artifact and the words in the instructions that told her not to worry about it made her curious. In the end, she could not resist the temptation. According to the original plot, when she could not steal the item, she found an ordinary player and stole a very ordinary item. In the end, she succeeded. The item she stole was level 1, which was the initial level. It was very ordinary, but from the outside, no one would be able to notice it. What was so strange about it? The artifact told her that even the game company would not be able to analyze the data of this item. They would only think that it was the most ordinary item in the game, an item for a new player. After that, Su Wei became bolder. At first, she was a little embarrassed. Later on, she thought that those items were all discarded by the players. They were not used at all and could not be sold at the moment. If she stole it, the other party would not be able to find out. Even if they found out, they would not be able to track it down. Hence, she became bolder. She is really getting bolder. Tang Guo saw the data of Su Wei's theft that the system gave her. Doesn't she feel embarrassed to steal other people's things? There were many people who were blinded by the benefits in front of them. When they were really in the middle of it, there were probably not many people who could hold themselves back. Who taught you to speak like an old man? Dear host, why don't you ask the game company when it will be upgraded? It should be soon. Even if I am a rich player, they will put the upgrade on the agenda as soon as possible. After all, this is a large-scale game. Before the upgrade, there must be a test to prevent problems and loss of players. That was true. Half a month later, the game would be upgraded. The entire server would be shut down for an entire night. It was estimated that the server would be reopened at 9 a.m. At that time, Tang Guo was still in school. It was the system that told her that the game had been upgraded and that there were many more things in it. Basically, everything she wanted had appeared. These were all prepared by the game company long ago, but they were taken out in advance. When she was free, Tang Guo logged into the game. As the system was already connected to the game, she only needed to sink her consciousness into it to be able to log in. Player challenges appeared. Normal challenges required the consent of both parties. Forced challenges required a token. Tokens could be sold in the market or obtained by digging for treasures. Since the mandatory challenge token had appeared, there was also a challenge exemption token. It was called the challenge exemption token and was twice as expensive as the mandatory challenge token. Tang Guo couldn't help but laugh. As expected of a money-sucking game company. You're really good at making money. Yes, a compulsory challenge token was worth 100. It didn't seem like much, but everyone could afford it. As soon as the system finished speaking, it saw Tang Guo go to the store to buy a token. She bought 100 of them in one go. Very good, another 10,000 gone. Tang Guo looked at the 100 compulsory challenge tokens in her bag and said excitedly, after school, I'll send someone to challenge Su Wei and beat the male lead back to his original state. It wasn't that she didn't want to do it now, but Su Wei was also in class. since he wasn't logged into the game, the challenge couldn't be done. System, I heard it. Dear host, you're super excited. Chapter 2942. Tang Guo was looking forward to the end of the school day so that she could challenge Su Wei to a fight. On the other hand, Su Wei was also looking forward to the end of the school day so that she could go back and help Nangong Jin gain experience and increase his proficiency in using items. Of course, she could also take a look at the other players' backpacks to see if they could find any items that were more suitable for Nangong Jin. Under their anticipation, the school day finally ended. The two of them were not in the same school. In fact, they were quite far away from each other. Su Wei was a high school student in a county, while Tang Guo was in another province. She was in a very good school in the city center of the provincial capital. After all, she was the daughter of the richest man in the city. She was very smart, so the school she attended could not be too bad. If they were not so far away, Tang Guo really wanted to meet Su Wei. Su Wei ran all the way back to her room. She could not wait to turn on the computer. In this day and age, although it was not a particularly high-tech era, no matter what one did, one could not do without a computer. As long as there were children at home, they would be equipped with a computer. After all, some classes could be conducted through the computer and logged into the school's official website. Without a computer, there was no way to attend classes. Su Wei logged into the game and plugged in the USB flash drive. Then, the scene appeared. The current Nangong Jin could no longer stand up to the shabby thatched hut. Thanks to her help to increase his strength, cure his limp, and give him equipment, Nangong Jin was able to defeat the village chief, who was the most powerful person in the village. No one in the village dared to bully him anymore. Every day, they treated him with respect. Su Wei intended to increase Nangong Jin's strength and then go to the town to have a look. It would be best if he could defeat the mayor and conquer the entire town. Initially, she was not very satisfied with Nangong Jin's appearance. Hence, she had added all her attribute points to his appearance. Now, she had decided to add all her attribute points to other attributes. Although Nangong Jin's appearance was not perfect, it was still at level 8 and the maximum level was at level 10. At least, she was satisfied for now. Su Wei sent Nangong Jin to grind for proficiency points while she used the USB to search for items that were suitable for Nangong Jin. Not long after, she found a saber. With Nangong Jin's current level, this saber was just right for him. Therefore, she stole the saber without hesitation. Not only could the USB drive steal items, but it could also show which items were frequently used, rarely used, and never used before when observing the backpacks. Basically, the things that Su Wei stole were things that had either been used once or had never been used in the past. For safety's sake, she didn't dare to touch it. As soon as the Cyan Moon saber landed in her backpack, it turned into a very ordinary saber. It was no different from the level 1 weapons that could be seen everywhere in the system. However, with the help of the USB, she could see the description of the items in the backpack. Previously, she had tried to throw a piece of equipment that had changed its appearance on the ground. No players picked it up because it was too low level. Chapter 2943. Because this game had just appeared, everyone was still trying to figure it out and had yet to sell it. There were limited slots in a player's backpack. Unless one was a tycoon and used money to open up a slot. However, a normal player like her didn't have the ability to spend money. Su Wei clicked on the Cyan Moon sword and gave it to Nangong Jin. Instantly, Nangong Jin was holding the Cyan Moon sword in his hand. She was going to look through the other players' backpacks to see if there was anything useful, such as pills, attribute points, and so on. She could steal a little bit of each item. Players with a lot of them wouldn't be able to notice. Recently, she had leveled up Nangong Jin many times with this. However, the majority of players would use these stat points on their beloved characters as soon as they obtained them. Only a small portion would be kept. It was very troublesome to steal some. She had to go through the backpacks one by one. The divine artifact told her that as long as it leveled up, it would be able to lock onto players automatically. Those players who could easily steal items wouldn't be so troublesome. As such, Su Wei worked hard every day to increase Nangong Jin's experience and proficiency. According to the manual on the divine artifact, if it wanted to level up, it would need to increase the proficiency of the stolen items to the maximum level. The higher the level of the item, the more experience it would need to level up the divine artifact. At this moment, a dialog box suddenly popped up on Su Wei's game interface, causing her to be stunned. Player 1, you sent Little Tortoise under Guogua Jam to challenge Nangong Jin under your tutelage. Su Wei was stunned for a moment. A forced challenge? She had some recollection. It seemed that during the previous level up, the system had updated many things. Among them, there was a forced challenge token between players. No. By the time Su Wei reacted, the interface had changed to the challenge interface. Then, she saw a huge tortoise charging towards Nangong Jin. The tortoise sat on Nangong Jin's body. Finally, the interface showed, Player 1, you sent Little Tortoise under Guogua Jam to defeat Nangong Jin under your tutelage. Player, please work hard to increase your husband's strength. Dropped items, Level 1 weapon, Level 1 shoes, Level 1 apparel, Level 1 ring. In the blink of an eye, Su Wei saw her husband and Nangong Jin's items fall to the ground. He was left with only his underwear. She suspected that the system left her underwear as a last resort. Isn't it so unfair? To lose all his equipment after a single challenge? However, when she saw that the system hadn't discovered any problems with the equipment, Su Wei relaxed slightly. Nangong Jin to wear a new set of out to wear out to Nangong Jin. Just as he put it on, the challenge frame appeared again. Player 1, you has sent Little Tortoise under Guogua Jam to challenge Nangong Jin under you. Player 1, your sex Little Tortoise has defeated your Nangong Jin. Player, please work to increase your husband's strength. Nangong to defeat to increase. Player 1, your sex Little Tortoise has defeated your Nangong Jin. Player, please work hard to increase your husband's strength. Player 1, you to defeat Guogua Jam. Player 1, you to defeat Guogua Jam. Player 1, you to defeat Guogua. Chapter 2944. Su Wei really didn't understand why the graceful sect would challenge her out of the blue. What made her even angrier was that the opponent was actually a tortoise. In this day and age, there were still tortoises in the game. It was one thing for you to raise a tortoise, but you even raised it to be so strong. Basically, Nangong Jin would be flattened by the opponent with a single blow. He couldn't even react in time. Every time she had just finished dressing Nangong Jin, the opponent would come. She had even tried to buy a battle exemption token before, but she wasn't a tycoon. A battle exemption token cost $200, and it was heartbreaking. In the end, she could only watch as Nangong Jin was beaten up. There was nothing she could do. She knew who this graceful sex Guoguojang was. After all, she was the tycoon champion, and there were always server notifications of her receiving the tycoon symbol. When she opened the server rankings, she was basically the top player in the entire server. She was a real tycoon. She didn't understand. She didn't seem to have any beef with that tycoon, right? Because of this, Su Wei tried to contact Tanghua. However, Tanghua had already blocked Su Wei, so she couldn't receive any messages from her. When Su Wei saw that the message failed to be sent, she understood that the tycoon had blocked her. She frowned and thought. Could she have really offended a tycoon by accident? No, she had always been leveling up honestly. It was impossible for her to be a tycoon. Moreover, they weren't in the same server. That tycoon was in the first server, and she had only registered later. In desperation, Su Wei decided not to let Nangong Jin wear any equipment. She would let him wear his underwear first, in case that tycoon came looking for trouble. However, she was wrong again. Graceful sex Big Orange Cat has issued a challenge to Nangong Jin. The challenge began. Big Orange Cat killed Nangong Jean with a single slap, and Nangong Jean lost 2 levels. Graceful and Graceful Sex Big Orange Cat has issued a challenge to Nangong Jean. In just a short minute, Su Wei watched as Nangong Jean was killed by Big Orange Cat over 10 times. He had lost over 20 levels. Then, she realized that not only did she lose her level, she also lost her attributes. In short, Nangong Jean, who had been defeated so many times, was no longer as handsome as before. Su Wei had a bad premonition. Would Nangong Jean be beaten back to his original state after being challenged by the other party? She hurriedly went to look at the previous upgrade announcement. After reading it, she felt unwell. It turned out that when the game was updated, it had already been stated that after being defeated, if there were no drops, the player's character would lose a level or even revert to its original form. Most of the players felt that this plan was not bad. It was more challenging and interesting. After all, under normal circumstances, no one would be like Tanghua, specifically buying a challenge token and challenging a character, right? In just a short while, Nangong Jean became uglier again. Seeing that Nangong Jean might become crippled, Su Wei hurriedly logged out of the game to ensure her safety. When she saw that the computer screen was no longer showing the game, she let out a long sigh. She slammed the table and cursed under her breath, "I don't know if that tycoon took the wrong medicine. He just had to chase after me to kill me. It wasn't easy for me to raise Nangong Jean so well, but he dropped from level 50 to level 20 in an instant. He almost reverted to his original form." On the other hand, Tanghua saw that Su Wei had logged off and laughed happily. The game company's planning is very talented. Chapter 2945. She's quite talented. After all, she managed to make my host happy. Oh right, my host, Su Wei's items have all been dropped by you. Now, she's back to square one and has to work hard to help Nangong Jean level up again. The system asked curiously, "My host, do you think Su Wei will give up just like that? After all, you've chased her back to her original form. If she gives up, won't there be no more games to play? I don't think she'll give up just because of this. Keep an eye on her and see if she's going to steal again. I'm guessing she'll come online again. When that time comes, I won't challenge her anymore. Otherwise, she'll be too scared to play the game." The system felt that his host might be thinking of something bad. Now that the compulsory challenge token is out, do you think the game company's next step will be to issue a bounty token? Also, my graceful you sex disciples can't be raised for nothing, right? They can't just issue a compulsory challenge every time they look for trouble. If they use it too often, it'll seem like they're trying to show off. System, he's still a young system, so he doesn't understand the bad taste of old foxes like this. Offering a reward is quite common, right? Under normal circumstances, games like this will come out. I'm guessing that the game company is prepared for it. After all, the game has been in development for so long. Some things must have been planned long ago. When the time comes, they'll just add in some things and that's it. But if we use the bounty token too often, it'll seem like we're trying to show off. Tanghua tapped her fingers. So, let's create another assassin order. That way, our disciples can disguise themselves as assassins and assassinate other players. If the assassination fails, their identities can be exposed. If the assassination succeeds, their identities won't be exposed. This way, it'll be fairer. The price can be set higher so that the players won't dislike it. If most of the players can't afford it, there won't be so much trouble. System, my host is right. As long as you can afford it, it'll be fine. I remember that Nangong Jean has a hidden identity in the storyline, right? After all, there aren't many normal people with the surname Nangong. Furthermore, he's the male lead, so it's normal for him to trigger a hidden storyline. When his identity is revealed, Su Wei will understand why he was assassinated. System, fuck, you're so evil. Tanghua waved her hand and added some more money into the account. Then, he called the game company and told them his thoughts. If we keep using compulsory orders to challenge, it'll be boring if we use them too much. The game company's planner was speechless. When will your bounty be released? Tanghua asked curiously. The person in charge of the gaming company said, since Miss Tang has asked, we actually plan to stop the release of the bounty order next month. Come out earlier. I'm afraid I won't be interested next month. The person in charge of the game company, you're really balding. Tanghua was not only going to spend the supplementary card Tang Rongyi gave her. After all, the money she was going to spend was going to make the game company follow her lead. If it was just a few 100,000 or a few million, the gaming company wouldn't have such a good attitude. Therefore, most of the money she spent was earned from the stock market. Her little Tongzi had earned it. System, stick out your chest. Pride. The speed at which she spent money showed that she didn't treat money as money at all. Her income alone was worth tens of thousands of players. After all, most players would just earn experience to level up, exchange for items, and increase their character stats. Chapter 2946. This cultivation game could be played to the end regardless of whether you spent money or not. However, spending money was like sitting on a rocket. If you didn't spend money, you would be in a wheelchair. Well, we'll consider it. We were discussing whether we should put up a bounty earlier. Tanghua was satisfied. Actually, I have a suggestion. I think it's very interesting. Game company planner, why do I feel like their company's programmers are going bald? Miss Tang, please speak. How can we not have an assassin's order when we have a bounty? Look, I have so many disciples under me. I can't raise them for nothing. Apart from doing missions and earning money for me, they should dare to do something else. Didn't you say that this game is simulated and that many of the plots are based on human activities? Then, it shouldn't be too much to let them pretend to be assassins and assassinate other players. Let's set another one. If the assassination fails, their identities will be exposed and they will become enemies with other players. If the assassination succeeds, their identities won't be exposed. Game company planner, but it's really a good idea. Game company planner, why didn't he think of this? Assassination order, good idea. After hanging up, Tanghua continued to farm experience points. She looked at Su Ji's character and felt that it was a little pitiful. Anyway, she had charged so much money and upgraded his equipment to the top level. Tongzi, when you're free, help Su Gu level up. I feel that he's a little pitiful. My little turtle is almost level 200 now, and Su Gu isn't even level 100. He's the #1 cultivation genius of the Tianxing continent. Great host, level 97 isn't low. It's especially difficult to level up after reaching level 60 in this game. Many of the top players in the server aren't even at this level. Moreover, this game hasn't been out for long. The main thing is that the disciples I've raised are almost level 80, right? System, alright, then let's level him up. When Great Host is in class, I'll give him more experience. It sounds really pitiful. Wasn't there a challenge? He would send Su Gu there. It was the easiest way to gain experience. The next day, during Tanghua's class, the system was leveling up Su Gu and taking him to kill everywhere. Of course, he wasn't forcing them this time. After all, that was a very ugly failure, and it was easy to make enemies. He brought Su Gu to the arena. If he defeated his opponent, he would be able to defend the arena and the other players would challenge him. The longer he stood in the ring, the more players he defeated, and the more experience he would gain. Tanghua was in class seriously, and Su Wei was still angry about what had happened yesterday. Because of that incident, she was afraid of being targeted by tycoons, so she didn't dare to log into the game again. Just as Tanghua thought, it was impossible for her to give up on this game. She planned to log in and take a look after school. She believed that the nouveau riche might have just found her an eyesore yesterday and might have forgotten about it today. She was even more eager to raise Nangong Jin's level. Although she had been defeated so many times, her instincts told her not to give up on Nangong Jin. Su Wei didn't know why she had such a terrible intuition. At noon, in the office of Tang's company, apart from the lunch break, it was the game time arranged by the assistant for Tang Roni. In order to play with Tang Roni, his assistant Hu Min also got himself a game character. Chapter 2947. But his character was different from Tang Roni's. He had a wife character. As a man, nothing was more interesting than raising a wife. The equipment is still not perfect. I need more money, Tang Roni said. His fingers clicked the mouse quickly, adding various attribute points to the character on the interface. Every day, he gave experience to his son on time, so that the game character's experience had reached level 100. Looking at Tang Roni, Hu Min didn't feel the pinch. Even he felt the pinch after spending 100,000. Sir, you don't need to spend so much money. You've spent a lot. After all, it's just a game character for Mississippi. You don't need to take it so seriously. Tang Roni shook his head and said with a smile, since I've raised it, of course I have to take it seriously. Xiao Gua is now the top of the whole server. I'm not even in the top 100. Sir, you mean you still want to be in the top 100? Hu Min didn't know whether to cry or laugh. Was his proposal wrong? Looking at his wife with a devilish figure and an angelic face on the interface, he couldn't help spending more money. His wife was so beautiful. If he didn't match her with nice clothes, he would feel like he was being abused. Maybe this was the reason why he was still single. My plan is to be in the top 10. When I'm in the top 10, I'll go and play with Xiao Gua. I don't know if she'll be happy. She definitely will. In fact, sir, you can also choose to join Mrs. Graceful Sect. Didn't she create a graceful sect before? There are many game characters in it. It said that the sect leader's token was pushed out by the game company in advance from Mississippi. No, I'll go and find Xiao Gua when I'm in the top 10. Tang Roni looked at the game character on the interface and added attribute points to it quickly. If I really have such a son, I don't have to worry about Xiao Gua. Xiao Gua is not in good health. It's good to have a brother to protect her and love her. She just needs to be a little princess. Host, this Tang Roni was really a good father. He even raised a game character for his daughter, looking forward to playing with her one day. Tang Kuei said, I don't know when this world will be assimilated. It's really boring to level up here every day, 111 thought weakly in his heart. What boredom. He clearly wanted to see that wild sister of his as soon as possible. If it weren't for the fact that I'm afraid of being caught, I would have leveled up to level 200 a long time ago. But this cheap father of mine gave me pretty good equipment, and I like the increased stats. Tang Kuei commented, it's a pity that he's still under the restrictions of the game world. He's afraid that his data will collapse, so he doesn't dare to move around. 111 sighed. If the host really wants to see your sister, do you want me to send an email to her wild system and tell it about your existence? No, I'll give her a surprise then. Since she's here, she won't be the same as before. Not only did nothing happen, I even taught Su Wei a lesson yesterday. Gu Nianji's tone was faint. The entire server knew that a tycoon had found trouble with an invisible player and had directly knocked him down by more than 20 levels. He had almost returned to his original state. As long as she's happy. 111. Sometimes, the host was really unprincipled. That wild sister had really stolen all the love from the host. After school that day, Su Wei logged into the game again to check out the situation. Chapter 2948. Su Wei carefully helped Nangong Jin gain experience. She even went to check if the player on the rich list was online. Seeing that he was not online, she secretly heaved a sigh of relief and quickly helped Nangong Jin gain experience. At the same time, she connected to the USB and continued to check the items in the players' backpacks. She had worked so hard before, but now, she was back to square one. Su Wei was still complaining. However, the rich player's challenge order was as good as free. She could only accept it. Suddenly, Su Wei had an idea. She wanted to check the rich player's backpack to see what items he had. The rich player on the rich list must have spent a lot of money. Not to mention other things, his outfit must be top-notch. All this time, she had been checking on other players who were around the same level as her. Because she had been beaten up yesterday, she wanted to take a look. She had been beaten up for no reason, so it was reasonable for her to take a look at the other party's backpack, right? Soon, Su Wei entered Tang Guo's game account into the system of the USB. Instantly, Tang Guo's account information popped up. She excitedly went to click on the other party's backpack. There was no reaction at all. When she took a closer look, she realized that the backpack, which was supposed to be sparkling, was actually gray. Anyone who had played the game before would know that the gray backpack was either empty, or the player did not have enough authority to open it. Obviously, Tang Guo's backpack could not be empty. Could it be that she did not have enough authority? Every time she was confused, she would go to the manual of the divine weapon to look for the answer. Sure enough, she soon found the reason. It was because her level was not high enough. It should be because Nangong Jin's level was not high enough. Based on the current situation, the best leveled character she could steal from was at most 30 levels lower than the highest leveled character in the enemy's inventory. She looked at Nangong Jin's level. He was not at level 30 because he had lost more than 20 levels yesterday. She then looked at Tang Guo's highest leveled character. Her face turned pale. Level 266. That was even higher than a big level. At the very least, there had never been such a high-leveled one in the middle realm. Knowing that she couldn't check Tang Guo's backpack, Su Wei was a little disappointed. She turned to check the backpacks of the other players. Now that Nangong Jin's level had dropped again, there was still a limit to the things she could steal. That was, the things she could steal had to be things that Nangong Jin could currently use. Once again, it was a long road to level up. This made Su Wei feel more and more resentful. That tycoon who had money but couldn't find a place to spend it and insisted on challenging her. Tycoons might not understand how tiring it was for ordinary players like them to grind for experience. Tang Guo came online a little late, mainly because Tang Rongyi came back today and took her out for dinner. At the same time, they also discussed the game she had been playing recently. She wondered what was going on, but Tang Rongyi said, "Xiao Guo, if you like any good outfit, just buy it. Daddy still has enough money to buy you some equipment. I've increased the amount of your secondary card again." As long as his daughter was happy, it was fine. Recently, his Xiao Guo's health seemed to have improved a lot. But when he thought of Tang Guo's 10,000 disciples and 10 main characters, he couldn't help but laugh. Chapter 2949. Okay, Dad. Looking at Tang Guo, Tang Rongyi almost couldn't help but tell her that he had been secretly playing the game recently. Don't worry, I'll tell my Xiao Guo when I reach the top 10. Back in the room, Tang Guo logged into the game. She also asked the system, did Su Wei steal anything today? She stole something. She wanted to sneak a peek at the host's backpack before the host came online. But her artifact seemed to have some restrictions. Maybe her level is too low, so she doesn't have the right to check it. Don't worry, even if she can check it, I'm here. She won't be able to see it. Even if she can see it, she can't touch it. Tang Guo didn't care about this. Did she go offline? Yeah, she went offline early today. I guess she wants to avoid the host. After all, she was scared by you yesterday. Since she's so scared of me, I won't hit her for a while. Tang Guo smiled. Besides, she didn't level up 2 times today. A compulsory challenge order is probably very expensive. It's meaningless to drop 1 or 2 levels each time. You can tell me when she reaches level 60. She was also afraid that Su Wei would be scared. Then it would be meaningless. Didn't she like to steal things? When she stole to a certain extent, she would take all her things, just like killing monsters to level up. Therefore, this monster was too small. She really didn't care about it. Host, don't you plan to announce Su Wei's situation? The system was confused. After all, she had stolen a lot of things from players. Those people were still discussing it a while ago, but the officials brushed it off. According to the situation, she should continue to steal things. It was really not easy for people to get some equipment. If they didn't spend money, they could only accumulate it with time. Not for now. Even if the officials know, they will just ban her account and stop her from playing the game. This is not what I want. What Su Wei did, I'll announce it to everyone after the world assimilates. Actually, I'm very curious. When the world is assimilated, how will she steal other people's things? Also, didn't you send a message to 111? It's very likely that the divine artifact is a product of the space-time department. It sounds very strange. Tang Guo thought for a while and said, if we ban Su Wei's game account now, the artifact will definitely give up on her and look for someone else. If that's the case, it's better to observe and wait for the world to assimilate before making a decision. The system agreed, but it still asked naively, what if Su Wei stops stealing? Tongzi, have you become stupid after leveling up? System, alright, he shouldn't have asked such a stupid question. Su Wei observed for a few days and found that Tang Guo really had no intention of challenging her. Sometimes, she would secretly observe that the other party had been online for a long time, as if the previous incident was just a misunderstanding. After a month, Su Wei slowly increased Nangong Jin's level. He was now level 60. Nangong Jin's appearance had also returned to his handsome appearance. She also gave him a full set of equipment. Because of the existence of the divine artifact, Nangong Jin's equipment seemed to be of the same level as the average equipment. In this month, she secretly took a lot of things from other players' backpacks. Chapter 2950. All of Nangong Jin's equipment came from this way. Hence, all she had to do was to give Nangong Jin experience points and increase his attributes. If she did, she would have reached level 100 by now. She really wanted to steal some attribute points back to strengthen Nangong Jin's abilities. However, most players would add attribute points to their characters as soon as they obtained them. So far, the amount of attribute points that she could steal from them was really very little. Before this, the service had been updated a few times. It was said that there were many new things. However, Su Wei didn't care about that. She was focused on helping Nangong Jin level up. As time passed, she felt a sense of urgency. She had to increase Nangong Jin's level. Otherwise, she would regret it. Hence, she tried her best to level up. However, now that she was level 60, she needed a lot of experience points to increase her level. Unless she spent money to increase her attributes and gain experience points, it would be easier for her to level up. However, she was just an ordinary high school student. She didn't have that much money. Dear host, Su Wei's Nangong Jin is already level 60. On this day, the system secretly told Tang Guo that she could kill him. Tang Guo was in class at that time. She almost laughed out loud. Then, she said, I'll kill him when I get back. Dear host, didn't you release a few new things? The assassination order is out. Where's the assassination order? The assassination order should still be in the planning stage. After all, this was a large-scale game. There were more and more people playing it. It would probably take a while for the system to be updated. Alright. Little Tongzi, give me 50 assassination orders. Let the other players accept the mission. As for the reward, just pick any equipment that I'm about to retire. Since the assassination order was out and Su Wei's Nangong Jin was level 60, she had to use it. 50 bounty orders should be enough. The system laughed secretly and hurriedly went to buy a token. After school, Su Wei hurried back to the house. She turned on the computer and helped Nangong Jin level up. This month, she and Tang Guo lived in peace. That rich man didn't bother her anymore, which made her feel much better. The urgency in her heart grew stronger and stronger. She had to raise Nangong Jin's strength as soon as possible. As soon as the interface opened, she saw a series of system messages. Player Wanyue sent Guoguo-chan to issue a kill order for you. Player Wanyue sent Guoguo-chan to issue a kill order for you. Player Wanyue sent Guoguo-chan to issue a kill order for you. Su Wei counted and found that there were a total of 50 bounty orders. She stared at the game interface in disbelief. What did she do to provoke that rich guy? It had been a month since the last time Su Wei was challenged by Guoguo-chan, the number 1 player in the entire server's rich list. Just at noon today, the graceful Guoguo-jang had actually issued 50 kill orders to Su Wei in one breath. As long as the players who accepted the kill order could kill Su Wei once, they would be able to obtain the items dropped by her character. At the same time, they would be able to obtain rewards from Tang Guo. Especially when the rewards that were announced were all top-tier equipment to them. Everyone in the server went crazy. Chapter 2951. This was because the bounty order could kill people across servers. After all, the bounty order was very expensive, much more expensive than the mandatory challenge order. $1,000 each. Only the rich could afford to play this game. Although they were curious as to why the graceful Union Sex Guoguocan would issue 10 bounties to kill a nobody, as long as there was a reward, nothing else was important. Wasn't it easy for them to kill invisible people? Before Su Wei could react, her Nangong Jin was found by someone who was over level 100. He killed Nangong Jin with a single slash. Not only did that big shot kill Nangong Jin, but he also announced to the entire server that he had killed Nangong Jin. He even told everyone about Nangong Jin's range of activities and asked those who had received the kill order to hurry over and kill him. After sending this message, the big boss went to receive the award. Host, your wild younger sister is bullying little invisible. Su Wei was hunted down by countless level 100 experts. Her Nangong Jin's level had been dropping from level 60 to level 30. The bounty order was even more perverted than the mandatory challenge order. Now that she had been locked onto, even if she cut off her power, she would not be able to escape from the bounty order that had locked onto her. Su Wei's face was pale the whole time. She tried to send a message to Tang Guo, but Tang Guo had already blocked her. She couldn't send it at all. Look at what's in my father's backpack, Tang Kuei said with a smile and excitement. It's a kill order. Hearing this, 111 hurriedly went to take a look. When he saw the flashing bounty order in his backpack, he poked at it. Sure enough, it showed that killing Nangong Jin, Su Wei's disciple, once would give him the corresponding equipment reward. At present, 111 was a little helpless. I have a feeling that your father will be playing games in the study room that he usually uses for his work. He will send you to kill Nangong Jin. Thanks to this cheap father's relentless efforts, I've finally broken through to level 200, Tang Kuei said faintly. Normally, I wouldn't bother to get an invisible player whose level has dropped to level 30. But since the kill order was issued by my younger sister, then I'll reluctantly go over and trample him to death. Now, 111 didn't want to talk at all. Tang Guo and Tang Rongyi had dinner together. After the meal, the two of them did not have any special activities today. Tang Rongyi said first, Xiao Guo, don't play too late. Go to the game early. Okay, Dad too. Don't work too late. Tang Rongyi kept a straight face and nodded, I will definitely go to bed at 11. He glanced at his watch. It was currently 9:00 in the evening. He must have gone to bed at 11 o'clock. There were still 2 hours left, so he could help his son gain experience. That's right, he received a kill order from his Xiaoguo this afternoon. Someone must have provoked his Xiaoguo in the game and he wanted to teach that person a lesson. Tang Kuei waited and waited. Finally, his cheap father logged into the game. At present, Su Wei was still awake. Tomorrow was the weekend, and Su Wei was being targeted by other kill orders, forcing her to quit the game. There was no way to save her. She could only keep a straight face and watch Nangong Jin drop in level. If she did it this time, the remaining kill orders would not expire. She would still be hunted, targeted, and let the other party kill her to their heart's content. Chapter 2952. She really didn't know why he would want to kill her. This made Su Wei have the idea of changing the name of the district. When Tang Rongyi and Tang Kuei found Nangong Jin, they were both silent when they saw his level. Tang Rongyi frowned in the study and murmured, "Why is there only 2 levels left?" Seeing that Nangong Jin was only level 2 and only had his underwear left, Tang Rongyi was a little disappointed. As a father, he was really too busy to come over and slash him more. Tang Kuei was also a little speechless. Level 2. A hair was enough to kill him. Although Nangong Jin was only level 2, neither of them thought of giving up. Tang Rongyi still clicked the kill order and locked Nangong Jin. Then Tang Kuei didn't hold back and stomped Nangong Jin to death. With that, their mission was completed and the kill order disappeared. However, there were still a lot of people who came over with the kill order. Looking at Nangong Jin, who was only level 1, they were all a little stunned. Because the reward for a successful kill was really too good, they came over and killed Nangong Jin once. Since Nangong Jin couldn't drop his equipment and level, he could only drop the things in his backpack after killing people. Seeing Nangong Jin being slashed continuously, Su Wei was already numb. Just when Nangong Jin was only level 1, she decided to change her zone. She heard that there were 2 new zones. She went to the new zone to play. She didn't know why that rich guy wanted to kill her. Since she couldn't beat him, she might as well avoid him and slowly level up. Those who came over with the kill order kept slashing at Nangong Jin, and the things in his backpack fell out quickly. Su Wei didn't care anymore. She didn't want to play Nangong Jin in that zone anymore. That cripple really wasted her efforts to help him level up. Host, Su Wei can't stand being chased anymore and changed her zone. 111 hurriedly told Tang Kuei what it had found out. Tang Kuei said carelessly, "She can't escape from my sister's eyes. As long as she dares to steal, she won't have a good ending. It's impossible for her to level up." All right. On the other side, the system also told Tang Guo about Su Wei changing servers. Then keep an eye on her and see if she steals again. The system felt that this was nonsense. Su Wei had a divine artifact in her hands. How could she not steal it? Speaking of which, if an ordinary person were to hold onto such a divine weapon, not many people would be able to resist it. A person's potential was limitless, but when a person was greedy, there was no limit to how low they could go. "I didn't have enough fun," Tang Rongyi said in the study. "It's still early. Let's take our son to kill a few more monsters and help him increase his attributes. The sooner he can climb to the top 10, the sooner he can play with Xiao Gua. Oh right, I think we should add another attribute. For example, spoiling little sister would be the best attribute." Tang Kuei was speechless. Su Wei switched to the newest server. She was too lazy to come up with a name, so she directly logged in. Anyway, things like changing a name could be done by buying a name change card. The character that she had developed was still her husband. This time, she planned to develop the character before naming it. If she just silently leveled up, she wouldn't provoke a tycoon, right? However, when she looked at the character that she had randomly obtained, she felt uncomfortable. The character still lived in a small mountain village. Although it was different from the previous Nangong Jin, it wasn't a cripple. However, it was actually a disfigured one. Chapter 2953. What she couldn't stand was that her hair was still red. Su Wei didn't believe it. She could only get this kind of character every time. So, she immediately changed servers and randomly got a character. It still lived in a small mountain village. It wasn't disfigured or crippled, but it had a broken arm. Su Wei, she really didn't believe that it was like this every time. Then, she changed servers again. When she saw that the random character was still in a small mountain village, she was a little desperate. Seeing that the character was a fool squatting at the entrance of the village and drooling, she almost gave up. She asked the system 3 times what was going on. The system's answer was very official, although the character that the player received had a very tragic background and looked like an insignificant person. Usually, such a character had a lot of potential. Please seriously increase the level of the character and obtain the hidden plot. So there was a hidden plot? Su Wei thought of Nangong Jin from before. Apart from his tragic background, his attributes did indeed increase quickly in all aspects. Every time his attributes increased, the success rate was very high. Could this be the benefit of a tragic background? Time passed quickly. 2 months passed. Originally, at this time, Su Wei used the divine artifact to steal Tanggua's items. But because her leveling wasn't smooth, she was either forcefully challenged or hunted down, and in the end, she was cut back to her original level. After another 2 months, Su Wei raised her character's level to 80. For these 2 months, she kept her character in the small village. She wasn't forcefully challenged or hunted down. She finally heaved a sigh of relief. Great host, Su Wei's character is level 80. Can I kill it now? She stole a lot of things from other players in the past 2 months. Although that character looked to be wearing ordinary clothes, the equipment stats were very high. My subordinate Su Gu is already over level 200, not to mention the mother I raised. She's already over level 300. Su Wei's character is only level 80. I feel like it's not enough to kill. Wasn't there an assassination order last week? The system secretly said that he was a little naughty. Why not send Su Gu to assassinate him? Recently, I had been giving Su Gu experience. Finally, he wasn't the lowest level character anymore. Although he wasn't as good as my mother's character, he was at least a lot better than Little Tortoise and Orange Cat. What a pitiful character. He could only be compared to the big orange cat and the little ghost turtle. Tanggua also thought of Su Ji's character. Alright, you arranged to buy a few assassination orders to assassinate Su Wei's character. Killing a level 80 player would be a piece of cake for him. That's right, don't cut off the things in her backpack. You just need to cut her down to level 1. The system quickly agreed and went to make the arrangements. After school in the afternoon, Su Wei excitedly went to level up. After all, the characters in the game were already at level 80. This made her feel less panicked. If it wasn't for the fact that she didn't have that much energy, she really wanted to raise 2 more characters. It wasn't that she didn't want to raise more characters, but if she raised 1 more character, she would have to spend a lot of money to have a place. This game was really taking more and more money. Her goal for this month was to raise her character to level 100. But Su Wei didn't expect that she would send her character to the town to train while she went to other players' backpacks to find things suitable for her. In the end, not long after, she received news that her character had been assassinated and died in town. Chapter 2954. Hello player, your player number 242424244 is training in a town and has been assassinated by a sudden assassin. Su Wei looked at the system notification and quickly changed the interface. Sure enough, she found her character's corpse in the town. Not only had she lost all of her equipment, but she had also lost 5 levels. This infuriated Su Wei. Assassination? In the end, she found the so-called assassination order in the market. She looked at the assassination order with a wooden face. She was going crazy. There were 3 ways to get an assassination order. First, buy it with money. Second, dig for treasure. Third, kill monsters. The first way was impossible. The second way was to pay for it. The third way was that the drop rate was too low. Su Wei couldn't understand why someone would try to assassinate her for no reason. But because the assassination was successful, she had no way of knowing the other party's identity. This made her sullen, but she had no other way to vent. She didn't even think that it could be Tanghua who sent someone to kill her character. It was worth mentioning that another attraction of this game was cross-server assassination. As long as you were willing to pay for it, there was nothing you couldn't do. This was enough. Many players didn't want to change servers, so they could play with their friends in different servers. Of course, you could also cross servers without paying for it. You just needed to get a cross-server token. Cross-server tokens could be bought. They weren't expensive and could be obtained from other places. In short, this game was a combination of the fun of many games. At the same time, it was a combination of countless games and the ability to steal money from players' wallets. Originally, Su Wei should have come to steal her things at this time. She could even use the game capsule and interact with the game character. But because of Tanggua's intervention, none of this happened. Perhaps, she wouldn't have the chance in the future. Su Wei's character was killed. She thought it was just an accident. After all, nothing had happened in the past 2 months. She brought her character to train in the town. Previously, the system even told her that this character might have some hidden plot. One thing she was sure of was that this character's luck was really good. Every time she leveled up, there was a chance for her to level up several times in a row. At most, she could level up 6 times in a row. Su Wei convinced herself that this character must have some sort of hidden storyline. Then, she equipped the character with equipment and sent him out to train. From the very beginning, Su Wei was able to continue playing the game because of the urgency in her heart. She had to develop a character so that she could feel at ease. Although she didn't know what was going on, Su Wei still decided to follow her instincts. The system discovered that Su Wei was still leveling up. It decided to wait until her character reached level 80 before sending Su Gu to assassinate her. Just like that, every time Su Wei's character reached level 80, Su Gu would go over and cut her down several levels. Naturally, all of her equipment would be cut off. The system felt that it was a bit fun. After all, the host had given this mission to it. So, it sent Su Gu today, Little Tortoise tomorrow, and Orange Cat the day after. Sometimes, it would send them all together to assassinate Su Wei's character in the town, in the ravines, or in the houses of the village. Seeing her character being assassinated every day, as soon as she went online. Sometimes, it was just one assassin. Sometimes, it was a wave of assassins. Su Wei really broke down. Chapter 2955. No matter how hard Su Wei tried to level up her character, she would quickly be killed by an assassin that appeared out of nowhere. Sometimes, she would bring her character to the academy to study, but on the way, she would be killed by an assassin that appeared out of nowhere. The system was having a lot of fun. Because it was just a normal assassination order, no one would notice how many times Su Wei's character died. After all, as long as you played the game seriously, even if you didn't spend money, you would be around level 150. Su Wei's character wasn't even level 100. She was practically invisible. No one would pay attention to her. While the system was having a lot of fun, 111 was also monitoring Su Wei's situation. Seeing that Su Wei was on the verge of breaking down, he felt that it wasn't right. The host was probably here for a vacation. With that wild sister around, why would she need a host? At this time, there were still about 5 months before the entire world would be assimilated into the game world. There was only 1 week left before the original host died. At this time, the officials announced that the game would undergo a large update tomorrow. At that time, there would be many new scenes. After the update, the game's characters would reach level 200. Players would be able to use the game pods and interact with the game's characters. When this news came out, countless players who had reached level 200 rubbed their hands in anticipation. Because it was a large update, the server would shut down at 8 p.m. the night before. It would only open again between 8:30 p.m. and 9 p.m. the next day. Su Wei had already broken down. At 8 p.m., she was forcefully logged out of the game. She looked at the USB drive connected to the computer. It was so useful, but playing a game made her lose levels every day. If she wasn't being hunted down, she would be assassinated. There was no way she could continue playing this game. She wanted to give up. She opened the USB drive. She thought to herself, this USB drive can retrieve items from other players' backpacks. What other uses does it have? Filled with doubts, Su Wei tried it and found that it didn't work at all. Other than logging into the game and using it in the game, there was no way to use it anywhere else, even if it was in other games. Could it be that this so-called artifact is only targeted at that game? Su Wei mumbled. Could it be that the hacker or the programmer created it? According to her knowledge, this was the only guess she could make. That must be the case. Maybe this USB drive was used by someone to find loopholes in the game and sabotage it. It just happened to drop and she picked it up. Su Wei had already decided not to play that game anymore. She didn't have any gaming experience at all. Just as she was about to turn off the USB flash drive, a frame suddenly popped up on the interface. She took a closer look and saw that it was a countdown. Above, 151 days to assimilate the world. Player, please work hard to level up your character. Su Wei looked at the number, and fear rose in her heart. Assimilate the world? What was the assimilation of worlds? This new term made her uneasy and fearful, but she couldn't find an answer. She tried to find the answer in the USB flash drive, but there was no update about the assimilation of worlds in the instruction manual. Furthermore, there was no way for her to close the interface. In the end, she could only pull out the USB, and the countdown timer disappeared. Chapter 2956. The next day happened to be the weekend. Tangwa didn't have to go to class, so she slept until 8 o'clock. The gaming pod was already prepared. Now, she just had to wait for the game to update and open so that she could interact with the characters she raised. Speaking of which, the original owner had raised so many characters, but she never used the gaming pod to interact with them. Because she clearly knew that no matter how realistic the characters in the game were, they were just characters in the game. Their appearance was just because she didn't have anyone to play with her. She also didn't expect that so many things would happen in the next week, which would even take her life. At 9 o'clock, the server opened. Tangwa first checked the map. Indeed, there were many new maps. Moreover, the map was much more detailed than before. Even the buildings looked more lifelike. Then, she laid down in the gaming pod that was prepared. The game interface appeared in front of her eyes. Because she was going to play the game, a character with her image would be automatically generated. This character's appearance could be adjusted to be 200% of the original appearance. The lowest it could be was 0. Tangwa didn't change. She felt that this body was quite beautiful. After entering the game, she almost instantly appeared in the main house of her mansion. Before she could react, a slender and handsome person appeared in front of her. Looking at the equipment on the other party's body, Tangwa understood. This must be the Su Gu that she had been ignoring. The original owner raised him in passing. Actually, she also raised him in passing. After all, everyone had leveled up. It didn't seem right for him to not level up. It was a little pitiful. Wife, you're finally awake. Tangwa didn't expect Su Gu to first look at her and then say to her affectionately, I've been waiting for this day for a long time. Tangwa, system, ha 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 ha. Before Tangwa could say anything, the door outside opened. Then, a 12 or 13-year-old boy rushed in front of her. He looked at her with red eyes and almost cried. He even used his sleeve to wipe the corners of his eyes. Sister, you're finally awake. I thought you wouldn't wake up. Tangwa, what plot did I trigger? Why did these paper people look so serious? Although he knew that the world would be assimilated, was it really so realistic now? Wasn't there still 5 months? System, host, you might have forgotten how much money you spent on these paper dolls. Didn't the game company secretly give you some cheats? Sister, it's good that you're awake. I won't let go of the people who caused you to fall into a coma. This young man was called Tang Tang. He was Tang Guo's younger brother. Wife, I'll protect you well in the future. I won't let you get hurt in the slightest. Su Gu held Tang Guo's hand as he spoke. It was as if his eyes could only contain her. Gua my Gua. A woman's voice rang out from outside. Her voice was filled with longing and love. Then, a beautiful woman in gorgeous clothes instantly landed in front of Tang Gua and hugged her tightly in her arms. She even touched the back of her head. My Gua, it's good that you're okay. Tang Gua sighed in her heart. This should be the mother she raised, right? Chapter 2957. The character's name was Ni Jun, the same name as her biological mother. It was clear that she really missed the mother who died giving birth to her. No wonder he would spend most of his money and good equipment on her. She didn't push Ni Jun away. She would just take the original owner's place and be hugged by her. Woof woof woof, it must be the dog she raised. It was a Samoyed and its name was by Xiao Wang. Meow, it was her cat. It was an orange cat named Big Orange Cat. She also saw a tortoise slowly crawling out of the water under the rockery. Its speed was really slow. In the end, the tortoise crawled to her feet, stepped on her skirt, and continued to doze off. At this time, a man and a woman walked in. What shocked her was that the two came in hand. The two came in front of her and smiled at each other as if they saw that she was alive. The worry between their brows disappeared. Xiao Gua is really fine. Brother Pan, I can finally rest assured. The one who spoke was Tang Guo's female friend, Miaoya. The other one was called Su Pan. He nodded and hugged Miaoya. Now, won't be sad all day. Tang Guo really wanted to ask. She didn't remember matchmaking them. How did these two become a pair? System, I'm going to die of laughter here today. Wife just woke up. Let her rest for a while. I've already ordered people to prepare food. At this time, Su Gu said to everyone. Everyone including Ni Jun nodded. Then Su Gu, stay here and accompany Gua. Take good care of her. She just woke up and will be going out soon. You have to follow her closely. Oh right, bring a few more people. It's not like we don't have people in our graceful promise sect. We have tens of thousands of disciples. If it wasn't for the fact that we don't want to cause too much of a commotion, I really want them to stay by Gua's side. Tang Gua, she spent money to buy those disciples. She spent a lot of money to buy them. Graceful Promise Sect was also created by her. She felt that she had triggered an incredible plot. It was as if everyone here was really human. She really didn't know what kind of genius the person who designed this game was. After that, everyone left. Only Su Gu and Tang Guo were left in the room. Su Gu held her hand and did not let go. Tang Guo tried to pull away, but the other party still refused to let go. Wife, I will protect you well in the future. I will never let you encounter any danger again. Su Gu refused to let go, and Tang Guo did not intend to continue pulling her hand away. She was a little curious about what was going on. So, she asked, Su Gu, what happened to me before? She stared into Su Ji's eyes. Su Ji's eyes didn't flicker, and all she could see in his eyes was her reflection. I've been waiting for this day for a long time. You're finally awake, Su Gu repeated. It's good that you're awake. Tang Guo almost thought that he was saying that he had been waiting for this day for a long time and that she was finally here. It was good that she was here. Previously, she had confirmed that Su Gu was that person. She didn't know if the original Sugu was, but the one who was holding her hand and didn't let go of her hand was definitely him. Only that person could be so thick-skinned. It was like a piece of sticky candy that couldn't be pulled off. See, he looked so gentle, but he refused to let go of her hand. Wife, have you lost your memory? Sugu reacted. That's right. You've been lying down for thousands of years. It's not strange that you've forgotten many things. Tangua. This plot? Chapter 2958. From Su Ji's narration, Tangua learned about the great battle 1,000 years ago, which ultimately caused her to fall into a deep sleep. It was said that she had been schemed against, which was why she had been injured. Otherwise, with her talent and strength, she wouldn't have suffered such great injuries. 1,000 years ago, their graceful Yu sect was also a very powerful sect. However, in the end, she fell into a deep sleep, and the people of the sect didn't go out much. Everyone seemed to have gone into seclusion. Her family, friends, disciples of the sect, and her pets were all waiting for the day she woke up. Tangua suddenly remembered. Wasn't Sugu a cultivation genius from the Tianqing sect in the Tianqing continent? Sugu, did you go back to the Tianqing sect? Tangua was curious. I remember that you were a cultivation genius from the Tianqing sect. Now that I think about it, you've been living in my graceful Yu sect for 1,000 years? System, if that's the case, then you're really a mangy dog. He could already tell that this guy was that thick-skinned guy. Once the host came, he wouldn't let go. Sugu nodded. I haven't been back to the Tianqing sect for a long time. It's fine if I don't go back there. Tangua, another hidden plot? Tangua wasn't in a hurry to exit the game. Instead, she planned to spend some time with these people and listen to some hidden plots. Then she realized that these characters she cultivated all had their own stories. They were even richer than some people in the real world. If only your father was here. Ni Jun looked at Tangua and sighed. Unfortunately, he went to the most dangerous arcane realm to help you wake up. He never disappeared. Tangua, so, she still has a father who disappeared? Tangua actually had a bit of a headache now. In the future, when the world was assimilated, her brother, husband, friends, pets, and disciples in the game would be easy to deal with. She didn't know what kind of scene it would be when her mother met her father in the real world. Just thinking about it made her feel terrible. Especially her mother's face. It was the same as the photos she had seen, but it was still a bit prettier. After spending a day in the game, when she lay down to sleep at night, she exited the game. She woke up from the nourishment chamber and looked at the time. Only 2 hours had passed. Regarding the game's official update, she could only say that the other party was really daring. As for why the game would assimilate with the real world, she couldn't find an answer. There was no answer in the original plot either. On the other side, Su Wei also knew that she could now use the gaming capsule to play games and communicate with her characters. However, not only did she not have a gaming capsule, her character hadn't even reached level 200. Even if she used a gaming capsule, her character would probably be very slow. Su Wei was envious and a little angry at the constant feedback on the forum. Coupled with the use of the gaming capsule, it gave them a brand new experience. If she hadn't been so unlucky as to be hunted down or assassinated, she would have reached level 200 by now. Su Wei was envious that more and more people were using the gaming capsule to play. As a result, her interest, which she had originally lost interest in, rose again. As she helped her character level up, she quickly rummaged through the backpacks of other players and took everything that she could use. She started to level up her character crazily. However, those assassins always appeared everywhere and killed her character in an instant. Chapter 2959. Time passed quickly, and another 4 months passed. Su Wei, who had worked hard to level up, had yet to surpass level 80. She was about to give up on this game. In between, she also changed many areas and created new characters. Perhaps it was because of her persistence that she chose a husband character every time. What made her very depressed was that her husbands were all born in a small broken house. They were either crippled or ugly. Basically, she gave up after creating this. In the end, in a new area, she planned to create a female character. The character's position was her good friend. She had already played this female character to level 79 and was about to reach level 80. As for the characters in the previous area, she gave up on them. Speaking of this female character's account, her luck was not bad when she played it. Although the other party was still a pitiful person and had a stupid brain. But at least she was not crippled or ugly. Through her efforts, the character had also become a lot smarter. Look, she was about to reach level 80. Tang Guo knew this. She was waiting for Su Wei to reach level 80 and kill the other party. Now, she had already sent people into the game herself and instructed those disciples to do it. However, every time it was about to be assigned, Su Gu would appear beside her like a ghost, holding her little hand and saying, "Who made my wife angry this time? I'll help you teach them a lesson." Since he had taken the initiative to volunteer, Tang Guo did not refuse. Thus, after the two of them covered their faces, they went to find Su Wei's character. She watched from the side as Su Gu chopped Su Wei's characters to death with a single slash. Because Su Wei did not have a game cabin, she could not see Su Wei's collapse. Host, Su Wei's female character is about to reach level 80. Okay, after school, I'll go back and kill her. After returning home after school, Tang Guo was surprised to find that Tang Rongyi came back early today. Dad, why are you so early today? Usually, Tang Rongyi was very busy except for coming back early to have dinner with her on Mondays, Wednesdays and Fridays. Sometimes he had to leave in a hurry after dinner. After all, Tang Rongyi was in charge of a big company, so he couldn't have much free time. I want to have dinner with Xiao Guo earlier today. Tang Rongyi was actually quite excited, because he had finally climbed to the top 10 of the whole server. This was the power ranking, not the rich list. As for the rich list, he had long been the second. He might not be as powerful as the others, but how could he not be as rich? In fact, he came back this afternoon to ask someone to help him install the game capsule. He planned to go to the gaming cabin in the study after dinner and meet his precious daughter there. How could he not be excited at the thought of that scene? The son he raised had grown up. When the time came, he would bring him over to play with Xiao Guo. She would probably be very happy, right? Tang Guo felt that Tang Rongyi seemed to be very happy. Dad, you look so happy today. Did something good happen? Yes, the company has won many big projects recently. Tang Rongyi stopped smiling, but the smile in his eyes could not be stopped. Of course I'm happy. By the way, is Xiao Guo still playing that game? Yeah, it's quite fun. Tang Rongyi, yeah, he also thinks it's very fun. The way to relax recently is to take his son in the game to kill monsters and level up when he is free. Tang Kuei. Chapter 2960. After the father and daughter had dinner, Tang Guo went back to her room to play the game. She didn't know that Tang Rongyi was not working in the study at all, but just like her, lying in the game chamber, planning to have a chance encounter with her. Tang Guo planned to assassinate the character raised by Su Wei today. It was said that the character raised by the other party was about to reach level 80. If there was no accident, Su Wei would be able to level up after logging in for a while. Wife, who are we going to assassinate this time? Su Gu was already rubbing his hands. Although his wife always liked to find trouble with little invisible people, if she was happy, he didn't mind stepping on the little invisible people. Tang Guo masked her face and let Su Gu use one to assassinate the other. Then the two went out of the mansion. A few minutes after the two went out of the mansion, two people came to visit outside the Wanhua sect. If Tang Guo was here, she could recognize that one of them was Tang Rongyi. Since Tang Guo founded the Wanhua sect, Tang Roni often saw people talking about it on the public channel. It was said that so far, no player had successfully joined the Wanhua sect. Tang Roni came here to give Tang Guo a surprise, and then go to kill monsters with his baby daughter. But he heard that Tang Guo had something to do and went out. Tang Roni was a little disappointed. Did she go out so soon? The people of the Wanhua sect didn't say where Tang Guo went, and she didn't say where she took Su Gu to. It was more troublesome to find such a person. Tang Roni had the idea of giving up and planned to try again tomorrow. After all, when he killed monsters himself, he basically just went to a place and kept killing until he went offline. Tang Kuei knew what Tang Guo might have gone to do. 111 had told him that the female character raised by Su Wei was about to reach level 80. If he was right, she should be able to arrive today. Seeing that Tang Kuei was planning to return home, he hurriedly said, "Father, why don't we wait for a while? Perhaps younger sister will be back soon." "You're right. Then I'll listen to you." Tang Roni looked at Tang Kuei up and down. The more he looked at him, the more satisfied he was. No wonder he spent several months and countless money to make this character. He was so smart that he was no different from a real person. He wondered if Xiao Guo would be surprised when she saw this. He had raised such a perfect brother for her. In the future, if he didn't have time to play with her, he would let Tang Kuei play with her. As soon as Tang Kuei saw Tang Roni's expression, he knew what he was thinking. However, he didn't mind at all. Speaking of which, it had been a long time. He didn't expect that he would have the chance to meet his sister again. Although they often contacted each other via email, how could that be compared to seeing each other in person and talking to each other? Therefore, the two of them expressed that they would wait for Tang Guo to return. The gatekeeper did not refuse and invited the two of them in. What Tang Roni didn't expect was that Tang Guo also gave him a big surprise. What was even more unexpected was that the person who looked exactly like the one in his memory had red eyes the moment he saw him. He pointed at him and asked where he had been all these years. Tang Roni. He doubted whether the game company had investigated his relationship experience before they wrote such a melodramatic plot. But that person's appearance really made him unable to ignore it. Tang Kuei, great. The cheap father raised his sister for her old age. Unexpectedly, the sister also raised a wife for the cheap father. And looking at that person's appearance, it seemed that she really had something to do with Tang Roni. Chapter 2961. This was really interesting. Was this really a story written by the game company? Tang Guo didn't know what happened in the house. She had already used the crossover token with Su Gu and reached Su Wei's area. Su Wei brought her character to the mountains to train. When Tang Guo arrived, she was still accumulating experience and almost reached level 80. Tang Guo didn't let Su Gu do anything for now. As for Su Wei, she was probably looking through other players' bags. The two hid in the bushes and watched as Su Wei's character's experience kept increasing. After half an hour, her experience bar was finally full. She was about to level up. Su Gu watched as the game character's image slowly changed. He had already pulled out his sword. Don't panic. Let her be happy first. Tang Guo held Su Ji's hand. When you attack the enemy later, try to make them lose as much level as possible. There was less than a month before the world was going to be assimilated. She had killed Su Wei so many times. She was getting better at stealing things. Su Wei had indirectly killed the original owner of the body because of stealing things. There was nothing wrong with her making Su Wei's character unable to grow in the game. Okay. Although Su Gu didn't understand anything, whatever his wife said was good. As long as his wife was happy, he could even kill level 1 invisible players every day. Tang Guo patted Su Ji's head. Su Gu, when you're free, try to level up. In a month, try to become as strong as you can. When I'm free, I'll look through the inventory and see if there are any weapons more suitable for you. Her character's story was different from other players. She had asked the game company later. The game company explained that they had hired someone to write the story for her. They also explained that in this game, players who had charged a certain amount would have their own story written for them. In the story, there were many situations that were left blank. As for how it would develop, the game company also said that they didn't know. This was because the game character's IQ was actually higher than a real person's. It was just that they lived in a virtual game. There were many things and plots that they could touch on their own. The game company had compiled all kinds of big data of human activities into the game's database. Therefore, these game characters would automatically trigger the appropriate plot based on the scene at that time. Regarding this, Tanguo really admired this gaming company. Their idea was too bold. God knows how many years it took to make this game. Also, her previous suspicion that the game world had assimilated with the real world might have something to do with the game company. From these 2 points, it could be seen that no one in the gaming company knew about this. Firstly, it could be seen from the original plot that most of the higher-ups of the game company had not actually played this game. Unless it was those people who specialized in testing the game. In the game world, the people of the game company were all dumbfounded. They had no idea what was going on. It was said that the CEO of this company died a long time ago due to an accident caused by the assimilation of worlds and social order. Secondly, she had asked Xiao Tongzi to help her monitor the actions of the game company. Almost all the people in charge and related to the game had been checked by the system, and there were no problems. That was why she still couldn't figure out why the game world had assimilated with the real world. Chapter 2962. Since my wife said so, it seems that I have to work hard on my cultivation, Su Gu said seriously. I can't lose to the pets at home, right? Now that my wife is awake, I won't be as dispirited as before. Even the big orange cat will look down on me, Su Gu said. This plot was also made up for her by the game company. They wrote that the reason why Su Ge's level was lower than the pets at home was because she was in a coma, so she didn't cultivate and was surpassed by the pets at home. The people at the game company were really good at making things up. They had thought of all kinds of reasons for her. When he came back to his senses, the female character that Su Wei raised had finished leveling up. Su Gu didn't go over immediately. Instead, he followed Tanguo's instructions and let the other party show off for a while. My wife, why is that mysterious person only speaking and not showing up? Su Gu asked curiously. Tanguo didn't know how to explain. She couldn't say that Su Wei was now an ordinary high school student and didn't have a gaming pod yet. So, she could only raise her own character in front of the computer. Of course, she could only hear the other party's voice. Maybe he doesn't want to show up. Su Gu nodded and believed her. That means that the other party is really a dangerous person. Oh right, my wife, the equipment that the people we assassinated before dropped was a bit strange. It looked quite ordinary, but it was much more powerful. Tanguo had already told Su Gu that Su Wei had raised people with such miserable backgrounds in many places. When Su Gu asked why, she said that Su Wei wanted to do something bad. All he needed to do was to kill the other party until their level dropped. The other party's level was low, so they couldn't do anything bad. System, the host is not soft when it comes to lying to her husband. Su Wei was very satisfied. In such a short time, she had raised this character to level 80. This time, she was raising a female character, not a husband. There shouldn't be any more assassinations, right? She was about to take out the equipment in her backpack and put it on the character. Suddenly, a dialog box popped up with a system notification. Congratulations, player, for unlocking a hidden plot. Su Wei was stunned. Did she trigger a hidden quest at level 80? Speaking of which, the previous few characters didn't have any hidden plots when they reached level 80. For this reason, Su Wei was a little excited. After all, the character that she had developed was really too pitiful. It was so miserable every time. Just in terms of appearance and intelligence, she had to painstakingly nurture him. She had really spent a lot of effort. Player, do you wish to reveal the hidden plot? Su Wei looked at it and clicked, yes, without hesitation. In that instant, the game character in front of her emitted a faint golden glow. It looked noble and awesome, which made Su Wei feel a little excited. Su Gu, who was about to make a move, stopped when he saw this situation. Tang Guo was actually curious about Su Wei's hidden plot. She believed that the game company should have given Su Wei's character some hidden plot. After all, Su Wei was the female lead, so it was more or less different. Even if the game company didn't give it, the character might accidentally grab a large database and create some strange plot. When the golden light dissipated, Su Wei looked at the people in the game interface and was stunned. Tang Guo looked and was also stunned. System, you can do this? You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.